So what is the role of startup technology in a global pandemic crisis? Here with an expert perspective is Our Crowd's head of business development, Lally David.
Startups move fast. Tech founders are uniquely agile, perhaps even more so here in Israel. In the last 3 months, we've seen the fast pace at which entrepreneurs have been able to adjust their technology and value propositions to address recent challenges. Here at Our Crowd, we've been able to identify these startups with the most relevant technologies and to provide the backup and support to introduce them to global industry leaders and to take an active part in pushing this forward. More philosophically, maybe, I think COVID has created a blur of local and global. Everyone is on Zoom or Teams, regardless of physical locations. Everyone is experiencing similar fears and challenges, regardless of geographies. And in a way, you find executives at leading multinational companies becoming as agile as early-stage founders. This is an incredible development that could lead us all to the greatest accomplishments.
Thank you, Lally. Now let's turn to the Holy Grail at the top of the global agenda in dealing with the coronavirus, the search for a vaccine.
In Washington state today, U.S. researchers tested the first experimental coronavirus vaccines.
Never has an experimental vaccine been more eagerly anticipated.
Finding an effective vaccine is the holy grail in preventing another coronavirus pandemic.
Breaking news overnight on the development of the COVID-19 vaccine from Dr. Anthony Fauci with some words of caution.
Efforts to find a coronavirus vaccine are about to take another major step forward.
A leading health specialist suggested we might not need a coronavirus vaccine.
Joining us now is Dr. Joseph Jacobson, head of the MIT Molecular Machines Research Group. Dr. Jacobson, thank you for being with us. I think the fastest vaccine ever produced was for mumps back in the 1960s, and that took 4 years. Obviously, technology has advanced in the last half century, but what are the challenges we still face in developing a vaccine, and how long do you think it might take?
Yeah, actually, I think the first vaccine back in 1796 by Ed Jenner actually set the record. It was about 46 days from concept to inpatient challenged response. That's a great hallmark for us, I think, to think about. And for me, what's happening right now, not just the number of shots on goal that we're taking, but the number of different kinds of shots, the number of different types of approaches that we're taking to vaccine, I think is really exemplary. I think the probability is really high that by the end of this year, we're going to have efficacious vaccine.
Does it really matter if there's no vaccine? For example, there's no vaccine for AIDS, which was deadly when it first emerged. And since then, we've discovered treatments that make it manageable. Is that a possible scenario for COVID-19?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think we've come tremendous distance from those early AIDS vaccine attempts in a couple of different levels. We've got the ability not just to create native protein or native antigen, but we can actually make recombinant protein as a first level. We can make RNA vaccines to express and to code for that, those antigens. And as a third level, we can actually go after the DNA of the virus itself, so-called CRISPR vaccines. So I think we've got a lot of tools in the arsenal to go after these. I don't think we're going to need all of those for COVID. I think we're going to solve that with the first two of those. But we've got a tremendous number of tools in the tool chest. I think we're going to be able to be successful both on the vaccine front and on the therapeutic front for COVID.
Professor Joseph Jacobson from MIT, thank you very much. Now, there are estimated to be at least 80 different vaccine research efforts around the world, and at least 5 of them just here in Israel. Lally, what is the business perspective on these different projects? What is Our Crowd looking for when choosing which one of these many options to invest in?
Well, we typically look for 2 main things. One is a brilliant team, and the other is proven technologies. This will enable the company to hit the ground running when addressing COVID challenges.
Now, Our Crowd has announced a $100 million pandemic innovation fund, and its first allocation is a $12 million investment in Migvax, an Israeli company developing a human vaccine for COVID-19. It's based on a vaccine platform they developed for a kind of avian coronavirus that has been proved effective in live animal testing. Joining us here in the studio is Dr. Sigal Kremer-Tal. Vice President for Clinical and Regulatory Issues at MIGVAX. Dr. Kremetal, welcome to the Pandemic Innovation Conference. We know already that the MIGVAX vaccine kills the coronavirus in birds, but when will we know if it actually works on people?
So we are aiming to start the first in-human clinical trial at the end of this summer. So we're expecting the first human data to be available by the end of this year.
Now, you have to prove it works scientifically. What are the regulatory hurdles you have to pass before it can actually reach the market?
Now, the science is very strong. This vaccine hits all three arms of the immune system, including the humoral, generating antibodies, the cellular-mediated immunity, as well as the mucosal immunity. In terms of regulation, vaccine is given to healthy people, so safety is utmost importance, and there's no way around it. And this is the main regulatory hurdles. MIGVAX 101 is an oral vaccine, so safety profile is very, very favorable.
Now, MIGVAX is a small research lab in the Galilee, but if your vaccine works, you're going to need billions of doses and worldwide distribution. How will you scale to that kind of global operation?
So scale-up doesn't happen overnight. We have contacted global regulatory authorities to obtain their feedback on our regulatory and clinical program. These include the NIAID at the NIH, the Paul Ehrlich Institute in Germany, and the CEPI. CEPI is the Coalition for Epidemiology and Preparedness Innovation. They are backed by the World Economic Forum as well as various nations. And so we have their feedback on our clinical program, development program. In terms of manufacturing, so we have contracted BTG. It's a Ferring company located in Israel for development and manufacturing. For additional scale-up, we are in contact with global companies to further scale up of the manufacturing.
And what about funding? $12 million might fund the research, but it's not going to get you global manufacturing and distribution of billions of doses of a vaccine.
So this initial funding is supposed to get us past the phase 1/2 clinical trial. Given the good results, we expect additional contacts with the investors, big pharma, as well as large manufacturers.
Dr. Sigal Kremetal from MIGVAX, thank you very much. And now, testing.
In the fight against the coronavirus, there is still one big unknown. How many people have actually contracted it? Maybe even without showing any symptoms.
So what exactly does the test for the coronavirus involve?
There's so many questions about testing in the U.S. News that private labs are now joining the fight. Tonight, we're going to take you inside one.
The U.S. Food and Drug Administration has approved a new rapid test from Abbott Laboratories.
Lally, we've heard about tests that return false results, about countries testing tens or hundreds of thousands of people, and other countries doing hardly any testing at all. What's the business case for testing?
Well, in order for countries to reopen their economy, they have to be able to scale the testing. They have to be able to test mass population of symptomatic people as well as healthy population. They also need to be able to do rapid tests. This will enable global travel and opening the borders.
Well, joining us now is Dr. Ronen Ivri. He's the CEO of Barcode Diagnostics. Dr. Ivri, you developed your technology for cancer patients to make chemotherapy drugs more efficient by measuring the effect of a particular drug on the tumour cells of a specific patient. What gave you the idea that your technology could be used for COVID-19 diagnostic tests?
Well, we're a startup company, and we've said we're a startup in the field of diagnostics, medical diagnostics. We have an expert team in the field, and when SARS-CoV-2 broke out, we said, how can we use our personalized tagging opportunity, our tagging technology, to actually screen out the different population for people who are virus positive? And we said, if we can use these barcodes This is a small shift, but we use our technology, we use our team, and we shift this towards the SARS-CoV-2. We can use this as a mass screening technology. And this is what we're developing right now.
Barcode says it can slightly modify the reagents currently used for screening, and by using an additional tool, it can massively increase the number of tests for COVID-19 to about 100,000 a day, enabling Israel to test its entire population in a matter of weeks. What's the theory behind that, and have you been able to show that it actually works?
Yeah, so the science behind barcoding and next-generation technology, which is the additional tool that we're using here, the science is solid. We know that this has been used also in viral screening before. What we have been doing is taking the current PCR-based tests, and we're adding the tag to them. This has been also published by others. We're not the only ones working on this, but we're aiming this as a kit that could be screened, could be sent over to the potential customers, which are the large screening customers, and they could actually increase the amount of tests they do in each potential lab. So in this way, you can actually screen the population and not just individuals who are potentially ill. That's where we're adding our edge.
And when can we expect Barcode's testing to begin in Israel?
We believe that within the next few weeks, we can bring this proof of concept. We're already begun work on positive and negative samples, and we show that we can actually, using next-generation screening, define the infected individuals from the non-infected.
And are there any other countries or companies showing any interest?
There are, of course, others who are developing other screening technologies, but I think that's what makes me as a CEO understand that we're on the right track.
Dr. Ivry from Barcode, thank you very much. Alongside you, we have Professor Gabi Sarusi from Ben Gurion University, the brains behind a coronavirus breath tester from a brand new company called Frontlines. Welcome to the studio. How does it work?
Oh, very simple, by the way. An individual blow into a breathalyzer-like device, which by accident I have it here with me. Okay? And basically, inside this breathalyzer, there is a chip, electronic chip, that contains something like 20,000 nano antennas. And once the antenna absorbs whatever coming from the mouth, after breathing it, we are scanning the chip inside the capsule in a terahertz spectrometer. And then we can see the signature, the exact signature of coronavirus infected people compared to healthy people. And this unique signature that we actually distinguish throughout the clinical trial that were escorted by the Israeli Ministry of Defense and Ministry of Care, and also by Sheba Hospital, actually showed us that we have a very, very unique signature for coronavirus carriers.
And will this test work on people who are asymptomatic? Could it accurately predict who's about to become sick?
Actually, the first round of the clinical trial were on asymptomatic people. Actually, there were soldiers that were in a camp that were isolated from all IDF, and all of them were asymptomatic. So I can say definitely all of them.
And where do you see it being used in a practical sense? Could it be a quick test at airports or shopping malls or cinemas?
Yeah, we position ourselves to do the test at point of entries, unlike tests that are done in point of cares. Point of entry, this is the unique that we have because it's so prompt test. So a guy can come, give the breath in the breathalyzer, and then put it in the spectrometer, and after 12 seconds, he will have the answer whether he is a carrier or not. And we think that the result that we got was something like 90% of the PCR, because the clinical trial were done in a way that we test them in parallel with the PCR swab test and with the breathalyzer. And so we believe that if somebody is diagnosed at the point of entry as a positive to coronavirus, he can do another test because it's so rapid, so there is no problem to do another one just to increase the reliability of the test.
Gabby Sarusi from Flanimus, Ronan Ivry from Barcode, thank you very much. And now we turn to the third area of technology, treating the virus.
Tweeting on Saturday morning about a combination of drugs he said have a real chance to be one of the biggest game changers in the history of medicine.
How far along are we in developing a drug to treat COVID-19?
Turning now to a possible ray of hope in the quest for a treatment for the coronavirus.
Lally, nearly 500,000 people have died from COVID-19 in just a few months. The little we know shows that it attacks the body's internal systems in complex ways, feeding off human cells, reproducing inside the body and leading to incurable collapse of the lungs and other vital systems. The world's greatest medical minds are working on virtually nothing else. Why should some little startup be able to make a difference?
Well, the beauty about startups is creating something out of nothing, to take technology from one field of expertise and to apply it to a completely different use case. We see that across our portfolio, but one example for this is TytoCare, that has taken optics technology to create a device that enables remote medical care. Let's take a look.
Introducing Tyto Home by TytoCare, an FDA-cleared award-winning remote medical exam kit. With Tyto, clinicians can remotely diagnose and treat many of the most common conditions. The Tyto device comes with an app and special adapters for examining the heart, lungs, throat, ears, abdomen, skin, and temperature. Tyto Home by TytoCare. On-demand medical exams from home.
So remote medical care has proven these days to become critical for corona patients and non-corona patients as well. So startups can make a difference.
Thank you, Lally. Well, the front runner in developing a treatment to kill the virus in its early stages inside the body before it's done any real damage is a company called Sanitize. They're in the middle of clinical trials in Canada to see if a nasal spray and throat gargle based on nitric oxide will successfully treat people at risk and coronavirus patients before they get fully infected. Dr. Gili Regev, the founder and CEO of Sanitize, joins us now from Canada. Dr. Regev, why do you think the Sanitize product can kill the coronavirus?
Why do I think? I don't think. I know it kills coronavirus. We have done studies, we have looked and studied it in our lab and in other labs externally that show that actually when you put Sanitize's liquid, the nitric oxide releasing solution, together with the virus for a very short time with the SARS-CoV-2 virus, it kills it. Within 2 minutes, it gets complete kill of the virus.
COVID-19 has only been with us for a few months. How was Sanitize able to develop this treatment so quickly?
The Sanitize has a platform technology, and this platform can treat all kinds of topical diseases and upper respiratory diseases. We always had this nasal spray for flu prevention on our platform technology, but it wasn't the priority. We were working on chronic sinusitis and diabetic foot ulcer, onychomycosis. And when this just started, everything was on hold. And then we decided that we quickly pivot and develop this treatment for COVID and do a quick clinical trial.
How is the treatment delivered? How do we actually use Sanitize?
It's a simple nasal spray, and you can see just a simple nasal spray that you can spray in your nose together with a nasal lavage, a nasal rinse. It's very simple. Everyone can do it at home. You can do the nasal spray during the day when you're at work. Every time when you think you may get infected, you can use it, or early on the disease.
And are you suggesting that with Sanitize we won't need masks or gloves or hand washing or social distancing? We can simply inhale the virus and then kill it? It sounds a bit risky.
That's exactly what it is. It's your hand sanitizer for your nose. So when you go outside, you use hand sanitizer. You will still use the hand sanitizer, but then you will use this nasal spray to sanitize, to kill the viruses in your nose if you get infected. So this is what I'm suggesting.
And in terms of frontline workers at the moment, is this an extra layer of protection that they can have, as well as the masks and the other things they're using?
Yes, exactly. Until this has all the proofs for effectiveness in clinical trial, then that's what we're suggesting is these people will do the nasal spray where in between breaks when they're finishing their shift and make sure that if they got infected, the virus will be killed immediately.
You're now in clinical trials in Canada. How are they going, and when can we expect the results?
The clinical trials are going well. We started in British Columbia, but cases are very, very low in British Columbia. We moved quickly into Quebec. We have 4 different sites recruiting in Quebec, and the number of cases are higher there. So we're hoping to get this done quickly. It has 2 arms. One is a prevention arm with a control arm to it, and the other one is a small efficacy trial. So we look at people that are already infected early on in the disease and treat them.
Are you going to be doing trials anywhere else apart from Canada?
We are currently applying for an IND in the US to do a trial in the US, which will be an early treatment trial. We're looking at designing a trial right now for the UK as well.
Now, COVID-19 is not the only disease that's caused by a coronavirus. So can Sanitize be used against other diseases as well?
Yes, I mean, as I mentioned, this was designed to be a flu prevention treatment. So every time when you go on a plane, when you go off the plane, you spray in your nose and you make sure you don't get the flu. This will be, nitric oxide kills any virus. For everything that we've seen so far, it is effective a very strong antimicrobial against bacteria and viruses and fungi. So if it's the flu or if it's the next pandemic that will unfortunately probably happen one day, this will work as well.
So if the trials are successful, when can we expect to see Sanitize on the pharmacy shelves?
So what we are hoping for is within 2 to 3 months to complete the trial in Canada, go back to Health Canada and use these data to ask for an expedited review and getting to what we call a phase 4, getting it into the market. Once we show this, we believe the US as well will grant us an emergency use authorization to start selling it in the US, and from there we'll go to the rest of the world.
Thank you, Dr. Gili Regev from Sanitize.
Thank you.
Lali, if Sanitize is approved, it's going to be the first approved treatment anywhere in the world for coronavirus. Do you share Gili Regev's belief in the effectiveness of the nitric oxide? Is that why our crowd is investing?
Well, remember, this is based on Nobel Prize-winning science by Professor Farid Murad, the Nobel Prize winner in 1998 for his work on nitric oxide, and now he's a member of the board of Sanitize.
OK, we've heard now from several startups who are developing what they hope will be solutions to the urgent problems created by the pandemic, whether a vaccine, testing or therapeutics. But, Lali, these are tiny companies, and for this technology to be deployed worldwide, don't they need to find large multinationals as partners to help them with the massive undertakings like manufacturing and distribution?
Well, at our crowd, we're fascinated by the collaboration opportunities and potential between huge multinational companies and startup companies. This is where magic is created. And this is very much thanks for enterprises such as Johnson & Johnson, who are open to innovation and embrace technologies created by startup companies.
Well, joining us now is Neil Ackerman of Johnson & Johnson, where he's head of advanced technologies for the global supply chain. Neil Ackerman, welcome to the studio. Johnson & Johnson is one of the largest medical and consumer supplies companies in the world. You sell billions of products every day. If a small startup, like the ones we've heard from here, develops a solution that passes all the regulatory tests, how can they bring their product to a global market on the massive scale required?
Well, the great news is that what you heard today was that all these companies have the DNA to scale. When you find that they're in a country like Israel, they're built to go out. And sure enough, in every one of these examples that we've heard, that's exactly what they're doing. Now, How do they go about doing it? They do the three most important things that customers always want. First, they make sure they have great selection. So they're going around and making sure that they're going to have the best product they can possibly have. Second, they're making sure that it's convenient. What you heard from every one of these startups is they're focused on what is the best experience for that customer, for that patient, how can they get it fast, and what's their plan. And then third, customers don't wake up every day and say, I would like to pay millions of dollars for this product. They want a good price. And in every case, they're building for scale. So with price, selection, and convenience, you have a winner. And that's why they're going to make it.
So these small startups, they'll need multinationals like you as partners. But to what extent does a huge corporation like Johnson & Johnson need the kind of innovation that these small-scale entrepreneurs are developing? You have huge resources. Can't you just do all this in-house?
Well, we cannot. We're asked this question quite often. You know, what does a startup bring? And my answer is they bring the 3 C's that we don't have and that we would love to keep on having. They bring an unbelievable culture. So that's the first one. And when you bring an unbelievable culture, you can bring that into even big multinationals and, of course, mid-sized small-cap companies. Second C, they bring great capability. So we may have some of those capabilities, but they're focused on this capability. They do it every day. They dream about it. It's in their blood. And so that C is very important. And the third C, you know what they're really close to? The customer. And so when they bring these types of things to us, culture, capability, customer, those 3 C's are why we want to engage with the startups.
Let's turn to your particular area of expertise. This crisis has exposed the global supply chain as much more fragile than most of us believed. How do we prepare for the post-pandemic future? How is the supply chain going to change? Who's going to lead that change inside major corporations? And what kind of technology is there that can predict future supply and demand to make sure this disruption doesn't happen again?
So those are a lot of questions. And what I would say is, first and foremost, it's a value set. It's a mindset. And it's called resiliency. And so what does supply chain have? Supply chains over thousands of years have learned the art of resiliency. You need them. And what we're finding right now is they're going from a cost operation to now this revenue-generating machine that they're needed for everything. We're all stuck at home, and we're seeing this happen right now. So the first set of your questions, what is a kind of leader? I think it's going to be supply chain folks, supply chain officers, folks that understand operations. And why do I say that? Because now more than ever, not only does the world need operators, they also need people with a lot of heart. And what happens with folks with a lot of heart? Who has all that heart? All the folks at the front line, the manufacturing folks, the truck drivers, the logistics coordinators. They're the heartbeat of this system. And so when you take all the people that understand the heart and they understand the operations, they're going to be able to lead that supply chain through the future and obviously come to the results that we're looking for. The second part of this question had to do with where we're going to go and what does the end-to-end supply chain look like for technology. And that is really going to be focused on a series of innovation areas, which I'm sure we can talk about forever. But mostly it's going to be artificial intelligence and machine learning combined with amazing logistics and fulfillment solutions with sensors in between that can make the magic happen. And so, yes, it's complicated. Yes, it's gnarly and very difficult to fully understand the end-to-end chain. But it's only going to happen if you have different folks in different disciplines coming together to make it happen. And so we're really lucky to be working with the startups, including the ones at our crowd, and to be able to find these solutions for the world.
Neil Ackerman from Johnson & Johnson, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Lally, before we move on, investors can choose between a lot of different opportunities and they look at the long term. not a passing fad. Why should investors be able to trust that a pop-up company created to solve an immediate problem, even if it's a brilliant solution, has any kind of long-term future?
Well, these are not pop-up companies. These companies have proven technologies and brilliant teams. These are companies that will address COVID challenges and remain post-COVID.
Lally David, Head of Business Development, Our Crowd, thank you very much.